Oh, right guys, absolutely freezing cold hands, which might be a surprise to some of you. Absolutely busted hair. Woo! But yeah, decided to take the car out for a bit of a blast, as I haven't had it for a little while, and just enjoy that. Beautiful day, very windy though. Ended up at Drury's Gap, which is just down the road from Canberra. Tide was going out, and a few kite surfers having lessons, and one guy on his own, and I could see a lad with him watching basically. And I started taking a few pictures and just walked down. I thought, oh, I'll go and speak to him and say hello. And I've just spent an hour, roughly, I think, maybe an hour, snapping away, doing videos of them. Really nice guys, Sam and Todd. But it's quite windy out there, so I thought I'd just speak in the car. But yeah, no, really, really cool. It did a couple of cool wipeouts, or crashes, or whatever you want to call it, and some really cool tricks as well. Proving the Rx10's Mark IV's worth, because that range of 24 to 600 I was using all of the time. Took around about, getting close to 3,000 shots. So yeah, plus video, slow motion, etc, etc. So yeah, anyway, I'll drive back now, grab something to eat, and have a look at the edits. So around about 1 hour earlier, I arrived at the beach, as you'll see in a second, and basically just started snapping. Rx10 Mark IV. I only went out for a drive and maybe to stop in a couple of places just to take some photos, but I ended up spending all of my time here because I just wanted to capture some real world action shots, a little bit of HFR, and also I thought, well, I wonder how long the battery really lasts in this sort of situation. Definitely a nice day though. I don't know if you can even hear me on this. Yep, apologies for the wind. I've actually got the new Sony wireless microphones actually on order. Obviously, probably due to the Suez Canal problem a while ago, we still haven't seen them yet, so they're coming soon. As well, and there from there really. So it's a nice day, so we can get down to ISO 100 nicely. There's a kite surfer out there. So I'm not sure if you can actually hear me properly then, but basically shooting at ISO 100 because the weather was nice and bright, sun was out, and you know, absolutely fine. Shutter speeds anywhere up to 1/4000th of a second f4 at the 600mm, and then I was wide open sometimes, up to sort of 1/8000th, 1/10000th of a second when I was at f2.4 when he came close to me. I started on wide AFC, but occasionally it kept going down, lower down on the water, so I swapped over to lock on AF center, and I had a much better hit rate. Right, let's go, Todd. Right, tide's going right out now, so this is where we were, he was kite surfing a minute ago. It's now gone shallow. I'm going to try and get across without getting too wet. It's still emptying, but Gore-Tex shoes are brilliant. Right, can't get any closer now. He's up again. So I don't know if you can hear it, guys, but this is Canberra Sand. So this is down the far end, so I'm at the east end of Canberra. All the nice stuff with obviously the beach and sort of the lighter sands and the dunes and everything are down there. So just snapping away really, using a bit of lock-on focus. Seems to lock onto him really quite well. I think it helps because he's quite silhouetted because he's wearing a black wetsuit, dry suit, whichever. It stays on him. It's even face detect quite well actually. I don't know how the microphones work on these phones, but I'll try and put my hand over it a little bit to try and shut off the wind. Sounds quite soft though. Obviously audio wasn't ideal due to all of that wind going on, but Sam was making the most of it. Really, really good day. Like I say, absolutely random. Just met them randomly on the beach. I was going to speak to people if I was going to say hello to anybody. And sometimes it's really worthwhile. Getting stuff like this is really cool. And in the day, I'm going to send Sam over the images, and he can use them, keep them, whatever, as memories, and etc, etc. So it's all good. Hi guys, absolutely beautiful day. Bit windy, as you can see by the hair. kite surfers out. Oh my god, my hair is literally everywhere. Need a haircut. As you can see, beautiful beach. So Canberra Sands is probably the best beach in the south of England by miles, and it's used by loads of different people, from horse riders to kite surfers and more. Yeah, absolutely awesome, and it's just very picturesque, if anything. But when you've got kite surfers doing cool stuff like this, it sort of takes your mind off the scenery, and you just try and get some cool shots like this. And this is where the Rx10 was very happy. And you know, me shooting wide angle like this, sort of 24mm out to about 70, but then I've got 600 when I want it. So it's a very, really handy piece of kit, because you don't have to worry about swapping lenses, and two, you've got that full range, which becomes very, very useful. This shot at 100 frames per second, this video slowed down by 50%, and then obviously you can zoom in like this, and that's where its benefit is. You know, yeah, fair enough, we want to use a full frame camera with a 100 or 400 or something like that, but you can't go back to really wide very easily without swapping lenses. And somewhere like this, you don't really want to be swapping lenses very often, because you're going to get sand and grit inside your camera. But yeah, another 100 frames per second here. Focusing pretty well. A couple of times it did miss focus, which you'll see, you might spot it a couple of times where I went off center as such. It did it a little bit then. I'm shooting fully manual here, so basically that's why the exposure gets a bit rubbish, because I literally went from taking stills and just pushing the record button, and when you're in manual mode it just stays in manual, so you either have to swap it to auto or something like that, or aperture priority, to give yourself a good exposure for video. But I just swapped it in whilst in manual, just push record. So it was down to me overexposing a couple of times there. A bit of a crash there from Sam. He was pretty made up with the video I caught on that, actually, which was quite cool. Just really cool to watch. I mean, I'd never do anything like this. I'm not brave enough to get on a board with a kite and get dragged down the beach, because that's what would happen. I know that, you know, I'd end up injuring myself. So watching someone else doing it and doing some cool stuff like this, I have a feeling it missed focus there for some reason, and then comes back onto him. There we go. I think that's me, user error, and it's done it again, and then it pops back in again. So as you can see there, a little bit overexposed as I go around where the sun is, because I've basically locked exposure. You know, as I'm basically swapping between shooting stills and video. Looks quite cool in black and white, I thought. That's at normal speed, and then I've slowed it down a little bit there. But yeah, really, really cool. I just love watching stuff like this, especially if you can do a little bit of slow motion video as well. It just shows you what's going on for a little bit longer, a little bit slower, and just allows us to appreciate what's going on. So as you can see there, back to 24mm, really nice wide view, but straight into 600 if I want it. So really, really useful. And yep, we're still waiting on the Rx10 Mark V, still no news about that yet. There we go, at 240 frames per second. Problem with this is that you have to lock exposure and lock autofocus, so focus becomes locked. But actually, if you can remember which way to dial it, you can actually manually focus, where I could have done with doing that now. As you can see there, Sam's gone out of focus now as he's coming closer to me as I've gone past. So if I can actually do it and remember, I can actually try and track focus manually with him. Here's a 24 frames per second burst of him doing a little trick there. So at 600mm, and we're at 1/4000th of a second, f4, ISO 100, and it was just on lock on AF on center. Obviously, once you've locked your target, it just stays with it anyway. So I just use center just because it finds your target nice and easily. And again here, I think there's a few bursts here. As you can see there, when I was actually zoomed in that much, it was actually quite difficult, one, to guess which way he's going to go, and two, staying on him. So you can see here, all these shots are just auto levels in Photoshop, and then I've just tweaked the white balance towards the blue a little bit to make it a little bit more appealing, because that water wasn't all that nice in colour. So there you go, he stacked it. This is cropped in, so you can see the water splashes there, and
and the next shot is the same photo again, cropped out, so you can see the kind of detail and everything that the Rx10 is producing. Lovely blurred background, works really, really well. I think sometimes the Rx10 really gives you a bit of assistance actually, because when you're shooting full frame you can actually end up with your depth of field being too shallow sometimes, so actually sometimes it is actually beneficial having that 1-inch sensor. A couple of shots here. These are a couple of the shots at the end. Basically I've just taken as we were walking back up the beach. Sam's board and shoes there, and his kite, I don't know what you call it actually, the handle, whatever. A couple of action shots here that I picked out that I quite like. As you can see there, putting his hand down, just actually puts his hand in the water afterwards. Quite cool, he's come belting from the left and then basically gone up into a jump, so that was pretty cool. And again he's doing a bit of a flip, and he's basically going towards the left now, but just thought it was quite cool. Very sharp image. Dungeness power station in the distance is quite amusing. So there was another kite surfer right down the other end of the beach there, further down. I think the sand goes about 4 miles, so it was about a mile or so down. This is looking east actually, no, west, I'm lying, it's looking west. This shot here, just a huge amount of water coming up, which I thought was quite interesting. It's like he's, you know, got very wet feet, but then he starts to lift. I thought that was quite a cool shot as well. As you can see, the blue sea in the distance, but it's all a bit rocked up here because it's all quite very shallow, sandy water. Water's obviously, the sand's been pushed up into the water, so it looks a bit murky. But as you can see, it's actually pretty clear. Once he splashes, that's when he stacked it. Right, so this is the kite surfer down the beach, and I shot down there, and a seagull basically photo bombed the shot, so it focused on the seagull rather than the kite surfer. So next shot now is after the seagull had actually moved out of the way. I managed to actually get a sharp shot, so just thought it was quite cool with I think it's a 1960s power station, not sure. And a kite surfer, just looked a bit different. It was a bit industrial, but kind of cool. And then this is how many shots I took on the battery. There's a 20% left on the battery, and 2,500, I think it was 26 shots there, and about 20 to 25 minutes worth of video, some being in 4K, some being 100 frames per second HD, and quite a bit of HFR slow motion, sort of 250 frames per second. So hope that kind of gives you an idea how long the battery can last. The camera was in airplane mode, and that's what I keep it in generally, because I don't normally use the Wi-Fi all that much. Occasionally I might connect via my phone, but most of the time it's not, so it makes the battery last quite a long time. Also the rear screen I turn off, so it makes the battery last quite a long time, and it all those shots it did pretty well, I thought. Anyway guys, don't forget to click that subscribe button, little notification bell as well, and there'll be a new video coming very soon. And please leave some comments below, any questions or anything as well. I shall see you soon. Cheers.